This is Unexpected with Hannah Love. In this podcast, you will gain a new perspective of how God loves you enough to call you to things that you couldn't have imagined for yourself. Sometimes revival begins in the most unlikely places, doesn't it? Small decisions, little seeds, they can make a world of difference. The film Jesus Revolution tells a story just like this. It's set during the Jesus movement that swept the nation in the 1970s, starting in Southern California at a little church called Calvary Chapel. In the film, we follow young Greg Laurie, who's been searching for all the right things in all the wrong places, getting carried away by the wild hippie movement. That is, until he meets Lonnie Frisbee, a charismatic street preacher who's passionate about bringing the gospel of Jesus Christ to the hippies. Lonnie teams up with Pastor Chuck Smith, and in a show of radical hospitality, they open the doors of Chuck's church to the barefoot, long-haired, drug-addled hippies of SoCal. In doing so, they find themselves in a revival that will change the world. Talk about unexpected. Jesus Revolution is PG-13 and stars Joel Courtney, Jonathan Roumie, Kimberly Williams-Paisley, Anna Grace Barlow, and Kelsey Grammer. Guys, I watched it. You don't want to miss it. Such a good movie. So join me and host your very own movie night to enjoy Jesus Revolution. Available now on demand, digital Blu-ray, and DVD. Visit JesusRevolution.movie to learn more. Again, that is JesusRevolution.movie. Hello, everybody. I am back, and this time with a not-so-new guest on the podcast. We decided that it would be kind of fun to do a part 2, if you will, to my interview with Shay last year. So, babe.
Here we are.
My husband, Shay Mooney, welcome back.
Thank you for having me. I didn't know if I'd get invited back.
Well, you're kind of a new man, so I guess you are kind of like a new guest. For all of those who do not know, Shay has gone on a really amazing, journey.
I guess you'd say. I would say a fitness journey, but it's more than that, huh?
It's so much more than that. But he has lost over 60 pounds. But I think you've lost some bad habits and some other stuff along the way.
Some other things along the way.
Yeah. So I just thought you've been an encouragement to a lot of people on social media, and especially a lot of men and husbands. And I know guys have messaged you. I just thought that I would pitch it over to you and let you share kind of your journey. The first thing I did want to ask, I'm not super prepared, but I did want to ask you what changed for you.
Oh, man. I guess, standing now on the other side of it, everything has changed. I think that everything about the way I live my life and just the things that I've gotten out of this journey have been kind of so many things that I can't hardly count the ways that it's changed me. And that's what I want to get into it later and ask you the things that you have seen.
Okay.
Because I feel like I've been keeping my head down.
Willing.
And this is fun because, obviously we have so much going on at home, so we never get to...
This is kind of a date for us.
This is a date. Yeah. I mean, wow. Feels good. No kids.
I know.
Things are really heating up. But I would say you originally asked what changed for me. I got to this point, and obviously we all went through a couple hard years there with COVID and, all of that crap. And it was a very sad time for me. In my head, I was feeling very sorry for myself. I got to this place where I was sad, and I shouldn't have been sad. Everything that I needed for my happiness was there. Mm-hmm. It was a completion. I had my amazing family. I would say I had my health, but that I didn't quite have my health in order then. But I had all of these incredible things, everything I needed. Now I see that, to be happy. But I was just in this place where I was very sad and felt I was feeling a lot of grief, I think, from the loss of, our tour went away at that time. And I was just kind of going through this period of, I don't know what is next for me. And as a 7, we always talk about the Enneagram. As a 7, when you're kind of living your life, one adventure to the next, when that's taken away from you as far as what's going to happen in the future and what is the next thing that I'm looking forward to, it was a very unhealthy place to be because I was looking forward to things.
Right.
And that goes back to that quote that I tell you all the time that I had heard, don't let the hope of future successes steal from the joy of now. And I was letting that happen all the time of just, I'm living one adventure to the next. And I just got to this place where I was feeling very sad, with COVID. Once that rug was pulled out from under me, I was just in this very depressed state, and I should not have been.
It doesn't matter how much success you have in the world.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't matter how many material things or the car you drive. I mean, there's a hole there that the world can't fill, and the world wants you to try to fill it with stuff.
Yeah.
But you were pretty deep in that unhappy place, despite all of those things. And I do think it's important to remind people of that, because especially young kids that are like, I'm going to be a YouTuber when I grow up. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that, but they think that having all the stuff and the success and the fame is going to fill that for them. And that's just not the truth.
It's not the truth.
So,
and I think people, when they get to that place, when they do have those successes like I'd had, once you get to that place and you realize that, that's when really things can hit rock bottom, because you realize the thing you've been kind of chasing after and hanging your hopes and dreams of happiness on, when that gets taken away from you, or the possibility of reaching those things.
Well, it's hollow.
It is completely hollow. And some people kind of lean into that and say, well, I just don't have enough yet.
Right.
And
they
that
need
to
the
me
next
is,
and the next and the next.
You need the next and the next. But I got into that place where I was just kind of, the biggest, I think, reason I started to see these things is with my health was the biggest thing that I started to realize of, it wasn't just physical health, it was mental health, spiritual health. All of these things kind of revolve around one another. And as I've discovered now, all of those things are very reliant on the next. I think that when you take care of your body, you can't compartmentalize discipline. It starts to bleed into other parts of your life. I heard that from a very wise woman one time.
Did you hear that from someone?
Wise woman once told me that.
Should we repeat that? You cannot compartmentalize discipline. You can't have it in your work life and not have it in your eating or your sleeping habits, or you just can't. And
you cannot.
You used to tell me, you did. You told me you could do that. You were like, I can,
I can do this.
Have discipline in my work. And I'm like...
ooh, well, you can't, stupid. I wish I could go back and have my old self listen to the things that I say now. But, that is a part of our journey, and I think that sometimes your lowest moments, that is the teaching, that is where the growth happens, is sometimes when you do hit rock bottom, you at least then, that hope is not down there.
Yeah.
And I was in that place where I can say, for my life, it wasn't that I was in this horrible place, with all of these things necessarily. There's a lot of people who have had to go a lot farther down, I guess, than I was. But I was in this very bad place, and our marriage was suffering. All of these things were suffering.
A lot of escaping.
A lot of escaping.
Coping.
And I think the biggest thing, your original question was what changed for me. And I think the main thing that happened to me was I started to feel it and see it in our kids. And I started to see that, I just wasn't present in those moments. And I knew that something had to change. And me, whenever I get something in my head, there's nothing that's going to stop me from pursuing that and going after it. That's why we're married. Didn't quit. Persistent. But I just got to this place where I was like, you know what? I'm so done with feeling tired. I'm sick of feeling like I can't run around and play with our kids and be there for them. We only get one shot at this. Our kids, as we've seen, even since COVID happened, Ames was born right before COVID hit, and now he's 3 years old. And I was just starting to see these little moments slip away, and I just said, this is not going to happen. I don't know how old I was then, years ago. I think I was 21. I think I was like, I guess 29 or 30 around that time, around COVID. But when this happened, this was, I guess, almost a year ago now, 10 months, something like that, when I started to kind of have this
honestly,
moment.
We recorded right before, the great shedding, as we call it.
The great shedding is what we call it at our house. The great shedding. I love referencing that to you as well. Yeah, well, that was before the shedding.
Yes.
But, that's where I got, and I was just like, you know what? I'm doing this, and it's going to be hard, but I'm done. I'm so sick of feeling this way. And
so what did you cut out first?
The first thing that I did, I started physically. It was kind of my diet. I was like, I know that I can't eat the way that I'm going to eat, and I know that I can't drink as much as I can. So I completely cut out alcohol. I completely cut out, bad foods. And I was like, let me just...
and processed
no
foods.
breads, no processed foods, no sugar. And I was just like, let's start there and see what that does. And I just,
And
started walking.
Yeah. So just so everyone knows, I want to be clear that there was no special diet. There wasn't anything fancy. There was nothing like a celebrity trainer involved. This was just you
Yeah.
cutting out alcohol, cutting out bread, cutting out processed foods, and really kind of just following a whole whole food diet.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
not the whole food diet, but just like making sure the food that you're putting in your body was like real,
Yeah, it
whole,
was real.
good food.
Yeah, and that's a great point that you bring that up because I get probably that question, or I guess maybe that comment more than anything. I would see that on my Instagram when I posted kind of the before and after. People were like, well, it's pretty easy when you've got a celebrity trainer and you have a chef, and all these things, and people just kind of assume that that's what it was. Hey, if you got the money to do that, I'm not saying that those things are bad. I just knew that I had to do this for myself. And I think that it really starts with your choices. Like, it has to be your choices. Whatever way you get there, it starts with your choices. And
Right.
that first choice is that you're done and that you're cutting these things out and that there's no compromise. And throughout this entire thing, the one thing, if they're like, oh, what diet did you do? I was doing intermittent fasting. I was doing whole food, dieting, and obviously cutting out the alcohol.
Not dieting. It was just
It wasn't
lifestyle.
dieting. That was the change. That's a
Right.
really good point.
It was a
because
lifestyle.
It was a lifestyle.
It wasn't
shift.
a diet.
Yes. That's exactly what it was. Because I have done things in the past that were diets, like the Whole30.
Yeah.
Not saying that the Whole30 is bad.
No,
it would
you
work.
dropped so much weight,
You
but
drop
it came
weight,
right back.
Comes right back because if it's not a complete timeline shift of, okay, this is the way that I live now. This is not for a period of time. And I kind of had in my head, I knew that if I could do something consistently for 6 months, I gave myself, 6 months to get there, not in order to then revert back to what I had done.
Right.
But I was just like, I know that if I can do something, work out every day in some kind of way, and I was walking 7 miles. That was just kind of my thing. I knew if I did this every day and stayed consistent on it, I just wanted to see what that did. And as I started to go down that path, it just started to fall off.
Yeah.
And I started to think more clearly. And I think a lot of that has to do with, the sugars, and the alcohol was a huge thing because it was just, it makes you eat horrible, at night.
Well, and the
Slept
processed
better.
foods. And
Yeah,
it
the
makes
processed
you
food, everything.
foggy. And now we've gone down all the rabbit holes with healthy.
We watched all the documentaries.
All the documentaries.
Yes. But it was just really, really exciting to start to feel kind of the benefits of a consistent lifestyle and not this kind of up and down. And I had actually heard an interview with John Mayer. It was just on Instagram or something. And he was talking about him going sober and kind of what that did to his life. And I related to it a lot because as musicians and as artists, as really anyone who is doing these very exciting things and having these dopamine spikes all the time, alcohol was one of those things that when you go out and you have this feeling and it's like, the highs are really high, but the lows, it's really low. It starts to kind of really mess with your ups and your downs. And he was talking about it first when you go sober, and I'm using my hands to talk. This is hard not to, I know you can't see this, but, you have your line. Alcohol is very high. Whenever you do that, you have that feeling. But whenever when you stop drinking, you go sober, your line is significantly lowered at all times. Your line, your bar kind of lowers altogether, and things kind of seem boring at first.
Boring.
And that's how I felt. It was like, this is kind of, there's nothing to look forward to, and me as a 7
This
was
isn't
like, what's
exciting
the
at all.
next? This isn't exciting. But over time, as you live that consistent lifestyle, I started to see that entire bar raised, where waking up in the morning and spending time with the kids, with you, and like all of this just started to raise my bar all the time. And there was no dips, there were no highs. And not that there weren't highs, but the highs weren't this really high and then someone cuts your parachute and then you're just crashing to the ground. Is a good way to visualize it.
What I'm hearing you say is that for the first time, not the first time, but probably in our marriage for the first time, you cut out the coping mechanisms,
Yeah.
right? And that put you down here. My hands are low. But then you sat in it for long enough to enjoy what was God-given around you.
Absolutely.
And so it was like your cup was starting to fill up.
Yeah.
Like your emotional and your spiritual cup, because the things that God put in your life, your wife, it's me, your kids.
Yeah. There, like I
those
said,
are the things that started to fill you.
Yeah.
And I could see that in you. Like, I could see that. Because, to be honest, when you first started, I was just like, I know that when he puts his mind to things, he really does it. But I just feel, I'm just like holding my breath because I don't know that this is going to be a forever thing. It could be like a few months or,
Yeah. Oh, 100%. I mean, I think I had that doubt too, for a second where I was like, can I do this, But as
But
you
I don't
just
think you'll ever
continue,
go back now.
I'll never go back. And here's why. I never have done anything. I don't know if that's proper grammar. I've never have done anything this
We're
long.
from Arkansas, everybody.
Yeah. But I've never done anything this consistent for this long. And I feel like I've had that consistency in my inconsistency, if that makes sense, in my erratic behavior where that was just, whenever I would cope, I would go back to that place, where it's like, all right, I'm going up and doing these things and distracting my mind from reality. Because my reality was scary, I thought, at the time. I think the biggest thing, and I think men need to hear this, as well as women, but I think the biggest thing for me is I started to really feel sorry for myself. Mm-hmm. And I look back now at ways that I coped at the beginning of our marriage. We were thrown into the lion's den, per se, of being like, just feeling sorry for myself. Like I was somehow just poor me. And I got to this place where, like, I can't believe that
my career was
taken off, and now I'm just I'm this married guy. I'm boring. Like I have this, all these like really these lies, really.
Yeah.
And what I started to realize is when I started to live a consistent lifestyle, I started to look around me, and the fulfillment that I had was just abundant. And it was like what I've been looking for has been here the entire time. I was just focusing on the wrong things. Yeah. And it was just
you were trying
stealing
to fill
my
it with
joy.
what the world had offered.
Yes, I was trying to fill it with all these things. And the problem was that I was getting a lot of these things, and then it was such a letdown.
Yeah.
It was such a letdown, and it was just not worth all of the lost time, that we've had. And something that I've been trying to look around, and this is probably another part of it. This will split us off in another place, but we've been talking about a lot recently about living in the now. Mm-hmm. And I feel like, especially in that place, I was either looking back on memories, whether that brought stress or grief or happy thoughts or whatever it was. I was looking back or forward to things that I had coming that were, and it goes back to that, don't let the hope of future successes. I had a lot of those future successes of opportunities that I knew were coming, but then I was not enjoying it. I was not there, present in the moment. And I think that is the very definition, among other things. I feel like God is the now. Right. I was talking to you about that the other day.
There was a quote in a C.S. Lewis book, and it was just talking about how, the past is the past. The most holy moment is the present, because that's where God is.
Because he is yesterday, today, always. He's the same.
He is outside of time, but for us as humans, we live within the bounds of time. So we have past, present, and future. Yeah. But past is gone, and we're not in the future yet. So the most holy place we can be in is right now.
Yeah, and it says it in the Bible, It's like, don't let tomorrow worry about tomorrow. And also, by the way, we're not promised tomorrow. So why are you holding so much weight in what's to come? And there was just so much beauty in that. And I was like, man, these moments that I look forward to, or even like, hey, I want to do this in the future, of like, I want to build this for us. I want to get this job, book this show, book this
and
tour,
hopes
whatever.
And dreams are not bad.
No, they're not bad, but they are. When they
become the high that you're looking for, rather than the place that you're living.
Yes, because that becomes right. That's the hope is the dopamine spike. That is kind of like the high of getting something and putting so much anticipation and putting so much weight in what is going to come. Even when that comes, because I've had those moments too. When it gets there, I'm super let down. Because I've allowed myself to hold all my weight and put so much anticipation and put so much pressure on that moment that it is always going to be a letdown. Yeah. And rather than letting myself enjoy where I'm at right now, because we're never going to be anywhere else than right now. And once you fully realize that, I used to worry about stuff. I'd stress about losing my voice. I would stress about, doing this or this show that I got. And it was always the thought of it. When I got there, it was never that bad.
Sure.
But I allowed myself in the moment not to enjoy where I was because I was too worried about, well, I got to go do this show.
Right.
And again, I would feel sorry for myself of this is just so much pressure. And it was all a lie.
Yeah. Well, let me just take a minute too. And I mean, this sounds pluggy, but May is Mental Health Awareness Month. And, it's not me just throwing these things out there about alcohol, but alcohol induces a lot of anxiety.
Yeah.
I mean, there's so many studies that have proven it. And also our diet, like certain things in our diet can make you foggy, can mess with your hormones, can mess with your mind, and give you an increased level of is it cortisol?
Yeah.
Is that the bad hormone?
Yep.
Stressor?
It is.
I think it is. It sounds bad.
Yeah, it sounds
bad.
That's why they named it that. I read that somewhere.
But
cortisol
yes,
sounds scary.
And so that played a part in it too. I mean, really.
Yeah, there's so much stuff that you realize, like, when I started, rewind, and I think we talked about this on the podcast last time, but before COVID hit, 2 weeks before, when we were about to have Ames, I had my first panic attack, and I did not know what that was. And now looking back on it, I was so unhealthy in so many ways, and mainly in food, and a lot of that had to do with alcohol. Yeah. But the mix of those things is just
the perfect storm.
It's the perfect storm, and it was because my levels were all off. And I mean, that was went and did a blood panel, and I feel like everybody should do that because you really see what your levels. And guys don't want to talk about hormone levels. If we ignore it, it doesn't exist.
Right.
And I don't want to talk about
too.
that. Women do that as well, and I think that, once I realized, I was like, man, I'm so out of whack. And it was because my diet and all of these things. And, I know this is not like a health food podcast, but for me, and I think for everyone, our mind, our body, and our spirit are so connected.
They're all connected.
God made us that way. And I have seen now, if you don't take care of your body, everything else suffers.
Sure.
Your mind, and it doesn't matter. You have to do all of those things together. And for me, and I think for everyone, this is our body, and we have a spirit.
One.
We only get one of these. And I think it starts there. It starts with what we put into our body. Because, now going down the rabbit hole, we realize that your gut health directly impacts your brain. It is so connected, and what you put in your body matters. And then that spins off into your spirit, your confidence, everything.
I can speak as a woman who's had 3 babies now, and I'm like on the back end of baby number 3 and trying to get my body back. And I know there's a lot of pressure there, but it's less about societal pressure for me than it is my own mental health. And I know that sounds silly or maybe like conceited, but when I look at my body and I know it's in a good condition and I know that it's strong, and that's I've seen my body in that shape.
Yeah.
Not like
actual shape.
Yeah, not form, but like I've seen me in good shape, and I know what it looks like when my body is as healthy as it can be.
Yeah.
And so for me to get back there, that improves my confidence. That improves really every aspect for me. I'm happier, I'm healthier, and it's not in a vain way, but it's just I feel my best.
Yeah.
And that translated for you. I watched you day after day losing pound after pound, and you've always been the most confident person I've ever met. I mean, literally.
I mean, I got you. You know what I mean?
But I just watched that kind of take over your inner confidence in another way. Like, and I'm not saying that you were dependent on your voice for your confidence, but it took kind of some of that stress off. From what I could see.
It absolutely did. I mean, it changed everything. I mean, I got to this point where I could tell it. I'm a very confident person. But
and you're funny, and you could rely on your humor, but
it just, if you're not feeling well, and I think that there is this stigma now, and we've gone so far in the wrong direction of, glorifying, just you got to love yourself. You got to love yourself. Yes, all those things are absolutely true.
If you love yourself, take care of yourself.
If you love yourself, though, like you say, you need to take care of yourself, because that is such a cop-out to be like, oh, you have to love your body. Absolutely. But if you love your body, you take care of it. If you love someone, and it just doesn't make sense.
Right. If you love your car,
yes,
take care of your car. You're not going to skip your oil changes and not put gas in it and trash it and never take it to the car wash.
Exactly.
Right?
It starts to become, the math does not math. When you start to to get down. And, the culture that we live in, this very, very woke culture that we have all cultivated, and we don't want to offend anyone. There are things from along the way that we took. Yes, these are good. You don't bully. There's like things that come out of this. You can't bully someone. You shouldn't shame someone for where they're at. That's not the point. But we also shouldn't go so far in the other direction to where we then completely lose the standard of what it is to be healthy. There's no ill will whenever you're talking about health.
Right.
There is a fact, there is a truth, and it is there, and that exists for our bodies.
Right.
And it is not being supremely overweight is not something to glorify.
Right.
And it is also not something to look at and be like, look at that idiot for not taking care of their body. That's not the point. It comes from a place of love, because when you're at that place, you are not at your best. You do not feel good. I just know you are not mentally there. And for me, had gotten very, very chubby, and I was so unhealthy. And, if I wanted to lean in and be like, you know what? No, this is me. I love my body, and I'm going to take care. I was not taking care of it. I was eating crap. I feel like, this stigma is starting to move back in the other direction, where people are realizing we can't glorify unhealthy behavior,
right,
and hide it with, oh, this is just we need to love people. We need to do this. That's not loving people. Let's just call that what it is.
Right.
That is the exact opposite of loving people. That is neglect, and it's not love.
Really is the same in the Bible. I mean, the Bible says, I think today's culture confuses love and tolerance.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I think that they think that because you're tolerating and accepting someone's behavior, someone's whatever, then that's love.
Yeah.
But real love is pointing out truth.
Yeah.
In every aspect, right? In our health, in lifestyles, in choices, that's really loving someone. I know we've both been in places where we had to call out truth to people that we love because we love them.
Yeah.
That was really, really hard, but we loved them too much not to.
Yeah.
Right?
And I think that's the key too, is like, we have our community of people. It doesn't mean you have to go out and, attack people on the street for their bad eating habits. These are the people in your community.
Right.
That's where you start, people that you genuinely love and would feel comfortable with, trying to help. And that's why I really want to talk about these things, because I am the least like health guru person, but I've done this.
Right.
And that's why I get so many messages of people asking, like, what did you do? And how did you do it? And, can I do that too? Could you help me? And I think that there's no specific diet. I think everybody, is different. Obviously, there are certain things that everybody can just grab onto of like, hey, don't eat whole foods. Don't eat processed foods. Like, we have so much crap on the shelves that none of us should be eating, They shouldn't even be on the shelves. It is slowly killing our society, and it's very sad. But I think that whatever it is you're doing, you have to do something consistently, and you can't just do it for 30 days. You got to do it for the rest of your life, and you got to ask yourself. And this was kind of something I said, and I've held on to it. And I think it's really funny. If you want to do the whole 30 or something like that, and you want to do these fad diets, if you want to lose weight for 30 days and feel good for 30 days, then do the whole 30. But if you want to change your life, you have to eat that way for the rest of your life. It just makes sense, I mean, you can't just get to this place, do this super diet, and then all of a sudden you're going to be like, awesome, I'm going to go back to eating whatever I want. It just doesn't make any sense, and it doesn't work.
There's a saying,
it's good.
It's just about good things take time, or the best things are worth the wait, and it's one of those, we live again in an instant gratification society where we want it. I mean, I think that's the other thing that people have been asking. They're like, oh, is Shay taking Ozempic?
Yeah,
Is that what
Ozempic,
it is?
there's some shots or whatever it is.
Something out there that a lot of celebrities and people are taking to drop weight, and it's kind of offensive because I'm like, no, like I've seen them do the heart work and the leg work,
Yeah, and I don't, people are always looking for the answer and that quick fix, and the problem, not to get too in the weeds with that, this is going to be fully a health podcast, but people are losing muscle and they're not really losing actual fat that they want to. And when you get off of that, I mean, they're already seeing, the results of what that's doing to people. And there's just the long and short of it is there are no shortcuts.
There's a good
to
metaphor
this.
in there somewhere.
I
I
was-
just know it.
There's one in there, but it is there. There are no shortcuts with
Right.
trying to get healthy. It doesn't work because it goes against everything that what our human nature is. You can't do something for a short time and then expect that to live on for the rest of your life.
Right.
It is an everyday thing, just like Paul said, I die daily.
Right.
And I go back to that now, and I read that verse very differently because obviously we have to die to ourselves every day. And I think a huge part of it, is taking care of our bodies because I am not where I want to be spiritually whenever I am eating like crap and I feel tired and I'm not sleeping and I get all these things,
As humans, we have fleshly desires, and those are different than what Holy Spirit calls us to, right? Like what God calls us to. And so that is dying to self. So that largely is, that flesh is your appetite. It is
controlling those urges.
Yeah, it is all of those things. It could be lust. It could be all these things. When the summer months are coming and you're trying to fill your kids' time, what's your go-to? Swimming lessons, art class, camp? It feels like there's so much time ahead of us, and it never fails. The schedule gets as busy as usual. It's just different busy. This summer, set aside time to slow down and focus on faith with your kids. Awana has a new subscription called Talk About, and it's a perfect way to build Bible time into your days. Just sign up. Try a month for free, and when you love it, because you will love it, it's only $5.99 a month for weekly content, like scripture discussion guides, Bible activities, and even a Spotify playlist to go along with the themes. You can talk faith together for hours or just for a few minutes, knowing that you're helping the people you love most to see and understand how God shows up every day in their lives. That is an epic summer. Visit talkaboutdiscipleship.com and use code HANNAH to start getting your free content this week. That's talkaboutdiscipleship.com. And now back to our show. Okay, something that I wanted to ask you, just because I know a lot of my listeners are wives or, hope to be wives one day. What would you say is something that they could do if they see this in their husband to support them in it?
Yeah.
And I know, and kind of too, like, we don't want there to be a shame attachment to that. Like I loved you. And I saw how unhealthy you were, but I also knew that you had to make your choices for you.
Yeah. I think, it's a very simple answer, and it's probably not the one that you're looking for, but the hard part about it is that it has to be a personal choice. And I would say prayer is a huge one.
Yeah.
I know so many people that were praying for me, and I know that is a little cliche.
It's not.
But it shouldn't be.
I tell you what,
it is powerful, and it worked for me.
I
and
walk
it was
every day. You know I do.
Yeah.
I mean, we take turns with who gets the kids while we go, work out or walk. But I walk every day, and every day for years, I have given you over to God.
Yeah.
And it looks just as simple as like, God, like, I give my husband to you.
Yeah.
Like, I consecrate my husband to you because he's yours, and you're pursuing him and you're chasing after him, and there's a relationship there that I don't have, and it is a hole that only you can fill.
Yeah.
And I prayed that every day, and I still pray over you every day.
It worked.
Thank you, Jesus.
But back to your question, it really is something that you have got to, and maybe one day there are a bunch of great podcasts and things out there that will inspire men. And I pray that my story impacts people, because especially for guys, it's like we don't get enough of those, men talking about things that men don't normally talk about.
Right.
And just seeing a normal guy like me of just like, hey, he was overweight. He was eating like crap. He eats like I do. And now he's doing this. What happened there? Yeah. I think that is there's a ton of those stories out there like mine. And I think that would be a good thing, if there's send them my story and talk about it, because it's completely changed my life, in the way that we live our lives. And
I think that just speaking for the wife portion, like for me, that looked like you being in this slump, right?
Yeah.
Like kind of a not lifelong slump, but as long as we'd been
Yeah.
married, you were always tired.
Yeah.
You didn't have the energy to play with the boys.
Yeah.
You were irritable.
Yeah.
And I'm not trying to call out all these mean to
No,
be
but
mean to you, but
the
these
truth.
are some
That's
of
where I
the
was.
kind of red flags, I guess.
Yeah.
And it was chronic.
Yeah.
There was never a he had a good day. It was just constantly that was life.
Yeah.
Until it was and you told the story. You told the story last time you were here about how even in the midst of that, Asher ran by and he was like, "Daddy, don't get my tickles."
Yeah.
And that was a light bulb for you of being like, what's important to me?
Yeah.
But that was kind of on the success end.
Yeah.
I feel like, and the chasing that.
Yeah.
And so I guess that's why I wanted to know what changed for you, because that was a pivotal moment.
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
But then it took a few years to translate
Sure.
that
It
moment.
takes time to undo all of these habits and things that, it was, God was working on my heart slowly but surely, and I think patience is another thing, talking about what wives can do. You were so patient with me throughout all of this, and God bless you for it, because a lot of people would be done. But you were. You didn't leave me.
I didn't. I was.
You didn't leave.
Probably the worst thing I did was every time he would snack, I would say, "Are you bored, or are you?"
Yeah, that part didn't work. I wouldn't suggest doing that. No, that might have prolonged it a few months.
I probably what not to do. Don't ask every time he is
eating.
You
and I could sit down and make a list of things of what not to do.
If you're eating because you're bored or eating because you're hungry, don't do that. Don't do that.
Sorry. I want to talk about moving on. I think we've covered kind of the physical thing. I want to talk about another pivotal part of kind of our journey of where we really saw some growth.
Okay.
Especially for guys, in a marriage, but also for wives as well to hear this. I know that a huge moment, I had this place where I was losing weight, and I was getting to this place where I was stoked. I was pursuing, I'm killing it, working out every day. But I think a huge moment was I had this realization in my head of you know what? Hannah has been leading our home for the last 5 years. And I wrote you a letter. You want to talk about that?
I knew you were queuing.
There's your intro.
Yeah, and again, if y'all want to go back and listen to our first conversation, if you're not familiar, there was a really, really hard season in the beginning where I did kind of hand you over to God because I just was at my rock bottom, and I knew that I had to give you to Him. But in that moment, we had a newborn who was Asher, and I was I remember telling you, I was weeping. I wasn't sobbing. I wasn't huffing. I literally just had tears that were just streaming down my face. And I just looked at you, and I was like, I love you, and I'm praying for you, but if you're not going to lead our house, I'm going to lead our house. I'm going to lead our baby.
Yeah.
And I don't want to do that. I've never wanted to do that.
Yeah.
When I knew that I met my person to marry, I wanted him. I told you that when we were dating. I said the next man that I date, I'm going to marry, and he's going to lead our house in Christ. Yeah. And so there we were, married with a baby. And it was like my worst nightmare. I was like, if you won't lead, I'll lead because I have to.
Yeah.
But I didn't want this.
Yeah.
But I'm going to do it because our baby is too important not to.
Yeah.
Not that he wasn't important to you, but...
Yeah, but I was not the leader of our home. And that's what God created me to do, was to be the leader. And I just remember having that moment, and just that simple letter, it essentially said...
He hid it in the car, and so I got in the car, and he stood there outside the door watching me, waiting, and I looked up,
my
and
cheesy smile.
He was just grinning so big, and I opened it up, and I might have gotten a little teary-eyed because he said...
I'll tell you what I said so you don't have to cry. I had this moment. I'd already decided. I was like, you know what? It was a realization, really, of I literally have let my wife lead our home, and you've done a phenomenal job. But I was like, I feel like it's really important for me to let her know that that's not the case anymore. It's my turn, to lead this. But I just essentially said, thank you for your service.
Yeah.
I think is what I said. But it's time for me to pick up. I'm planting the flag in the ground. This is. I will lead our home.
You said you can lay it down now.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna pick it up and
it was a big moment.
It was a big moment. Whew.
I didn't think we were going to cry this time. We were in a happy place. What we cried for.
But you know what? That
was very powerful.
And thank you for being a man enough to share that, because I think just hearing that, if nothing else, then that could change someone's life. Yeah,
that's what we're called to do.
Yeah.
It is our jobs. And I think that's another thing that we've gotten away from in our society. It's like, well, you can't just say that, a woman could do it too. Absolutely.
Yeah.
There are certain situations where women have to. The husband isn't around. There's so many incredible single mothers that do it, and God empowers them to do that. But I also think that we need to remember that in a home, it's our job as husbands to lead and to lead well. It is, when you look at the stats of many, many different things, a huge difference is having a husband in the home, having a father in the home, and leading them. I mean, you look at the stats of everything. You can look at crime. You can look at a million different stats. And the difference of a parent in the home, a dad in the home, leading with the wife, and that family construct there is just so powerful.
Yeah.
And not that it can't work in other ways at all. But I think that it's almost gets demonized of having the father leading the home. It's like, well, no, the wife can do it. Yes, it's toxic.
No, God built you to do that.
Yeah.
And God built me as your wife to serve under you.
Yeah.
And that doesn't mean servitude.
No.
No, that just means honoring you as our leader and looking to you now to make choices first.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on that before we, I'm coming to you.
Yeah.
Not that I didn't come to you to make important decisions, but now it's different.
It's a partnership, and this is you can rely on me now to just in those moments where, you're looking for leadership and you're looking for guidance. Not that I'm always going to have the answers, but I am there in that role.
Right.
To lead you and to lead our family, and to not just, I don't know how we're going to discipline our kids or do all of these things. Like, that's our job as men, and we have to step up.
One of the biggest things not biggest, but like if you just want to talk about things that I noticed in you.
Yeah.
Like after kind of the passing of the baton there, and after you writing that letter, I don't want to say for the first time, but like the first thing that I noticed was that I wasn't trying to wake you up 10 minutes before church so you could get yourself ready after I'd got the kids ready.
Yeah.
To go to church and tell you that we're going to church.
Yeah.
You were like, come on, family, we're going to church. And you got up and you helped take care of the kids with me, and you took us to church.
Yeah.
And that sounds like such a little thing, but it was a big thing.
Yeah. I think that a lot of those moments that we've had that seem like little things it's just the fruit of hard work and these disciplines that I've I put in place. And I don't know, it's so much more exciting too for guys. Like, we need purpose. That's something that God put in us. Is that's like the main driving force of why we do what we do.
Right.
We want to feel wanted. We need to feel needed. We have to have a purpose.
Right.
And I think that's probably a huge part of why people look. It's not just that they're chasing after these things; they're putting their purpose in these things. And my purpose on earth is not to be a singer. My purpose is to be a dad.
Babe. Yeah. And I think that is another huge piece that men probably need to hear, because I know there's a weight on men to provide.
Yeah.
Provide, financially for their family, provide well for their family. But I told you, I remember telling you a million times, if we didn't have a penny,
Yeah.
like if we didn't have any of it,
Wouldn't care.
if we had to move, and I remember I was like, if we had to move back to Arkansas in a 1-bedroom house, like this would be enough for me. And what I meant by that was like, God is enough, and you as my husband, and like you leading our home.
Yeah.
That's enough. That's
I was
the
trying to say my
provision.
purpose is as being a father and a husband, but I couldn't get that
I
out.
know. We know. We understood it. But that is the ultimate provision.
Yeah.
Is that spiritual leadership. And you're right. Like there are statistics. I couldn't tell you the numbers, but I can tell you it's like 80 to 90% of a home statistically will come to know Christ if the dad knows Christ.
Yeah.
And then it drops to like 40-ish maybe if the mom knows Christ. And then like if the kids come to know Christ and bring it to the home, it's like, 12 to 17%, something lower. But like if the dad has a relationship with Christ, if the dad leads the home there, then almost 90% of the time, that whole family's life will be changed.
Yeah. In business, you look at, Dan and I run a business, and we've always done it this way and treated people well. If we treat our people well, they treat other people well. It goes down, so on.
Right, it's the fruit.
And it is, it starts at the top always. And in a family, the father is at the top. Not that the wife is not there right beside him, but it has to be, and like I said, there are 1,000 single dads, single mothers that do an incredible job, and not that it cannot work in that way. But I think for us, it was like, that was a huge shift. It's the way that God made us, and it just, I don't know, it's exciting. It was very exciting for me to realize my purpose is to be a father and a husband. And what that brought to me for my happiness was just like an explosion of like possibilities. It became like, okay, I'm coming home to rest now and to like enjoy. This is vacation. And it used to be like, I go rest on the road, and then I come home and I'm like, I was coping. It was almost like work. It was like, my goodness. And not that parenthood is not work. It's still hard.
It's really hard.
The fulfillment is just, it's crazy how much differently I view it now than I did. And I'm coming from this place of like, man, we get to do this. And I genuinely in my heart know now, if music completely went away, sure, I'd be sad, but I would have everything that I needed right there. And there'd be, and I don't think that music is not going to be taken away, but even if I was just doing it for fun, I can never lose. No one can take that from me, right? Creating. And that's why I'm finding joy in the process of doing those things, the process of creating music. That's where you find your joy from music, this God-given gift that I have. I get fulfillment from going into the piano room and playing the amazing piano that you got me for Christmas and playing with the boys and having these moments, and just life got so much richer. And it was just like, this is what it's supposed to feel like. Mm-hmm. Sure, you're going to have ups and downs, but it is not the same. My joy, my happiness is completely reliant on my family and on God. Yeah. It's home. It's all those things that mean home. And then once you take that pressure out, it doesn't matter what house you live in. Your home is your family. It's Asher, Ames, and Abram, and Hannah Mooney. That's it. And that takes pressure off, because then you stop chasing after these things in order to get what you think your family needs. Right. Where it's like, well, we'd be all so much happier if we could live in a 20,000 square foot house and we'd have room to do this and room to do this. And it's missing the point. None of that matters. Mm-mm. A bigger house does not matter. And it's just, none of those things do. And you can pursue all of those things, but that's not where happiness lives. We actually cut a song for our next record it talks about that very thing. And I love the song so much because it literally talks about, it's called Bigger Houses. I don't know when that will be out. Well, maybe we can't talk about that yet, but it is, I gravitated to that so much because the hook is, the thing about happiness I found is it don't live in bigger houses. And it's just, that's such a cool way to sum it up because it really doesn't, and we've been to that place and we are so blessed and have been able to, we have this beautiful home, and it's not that is the root of the problem, but when you're pursuing that and you're pursuing a bigger house, because that's why it's bigger. It's not, it doesn't live in big houses. It doesn't live in bigger, because you can always have more. There's always a bigger house out there. There's always a shinier, newer truck. There's always a newer, in some people too, in their marriage, there's younger people. Yeah. There's young, there's something new out there, and there always will be. There will always be those things, and it's just simply hollow. The real goodness, when you start really like living life to the fullest, it does not exist in the pursuit of those things. Yeah. It is in the planting those seeds in your kids and watching them grow. Yeah. It's in all of those things, the rich moments. And we're just getting to that part. It's pretty exciting.
We're just getting there. Asher came home from library last week, and you remember the book that he brought home that he chose?
Bible.
The Bible.
That was the Bible.
He brought home the Bible, and he has 1,000 Bibles, but that's his favorite book.
It is.
It's
amazing.
Life is good. And you know what? I don't want to talk everyone's head off too much today, but one more visual I do want to give, and one more encouragement that I do want to give is that if you are in a valley, it's like Shay said at the beginning, that the valleys are where you're grown.
Yeah.
That on your knees and in your darkest places, that's where you're grown. And I love this visual. There's the mountaintops, and then there's the valleys below. And if you think about it, the valleys below are usually covered in grass. Yeah. Because that's where the richness settles. And that's where the water flows.
Yeah.
And that's where, it's the bottom.
Yeah.
But that's the richest soil.
Yeah.
And that's what will bring growth from your life. So I just want to encourage you, if you feel like you're in a bottom place and it's dark and you feel like there's no getting out, like the bottom is where the richness can come from. The bottom is where you can grow, and it can produce the most beautiful seasons of your life. And life will always be full of hills and valleys, like the Torrin Wills song. Yeah. But I just pray that whoever's listening, that you don't get so lost in that valley place that you forget that God can use that unexpected or that darkness and turn it for the good. Again, I say this all the time, but the darker the night, the brighter the stars. Yeah. And I feel like in our years of marriage, we've had some dark nights, and I'm just seeing the stars shine so bright right now in this season of life.
Really bright, because really that bright contrast it's heavy.
Yeah.
And I love that visual, because people ask me, sometimes, you get these interview questions of like, if you could go back and you could change something, I wouldn't change one. I wouldn't change one thing, because now that I've been down there and I'm not going back,
Yeah.
And now that I'm in this place, I know what emptiness feels like. But having that contrast now is God used that place to say, well, you felt that.
Right.
Don't do that again. And to know now, okay, there's my marker. Don't ever go back again. And I just now feeling like this, pursuing after greatness in every aspect of my life. It's changed my potential too. I have no idea what God's going to use me with, and in our band, Dan and I are in a better place than we've ever been. It's very exciting. So many things on the horizon, but now I have home base.
Yeah.
And I've never really had that. I have been pursuing this out here in hopes of building a home base, which is so stupid, when you think about it. But now I have home.
Yeah.
And that is where I get my rest. And everything else goes from that hub. And that's where I find my joy. That's where I fill myself up.
Right.
And now bringing in these men that are also leading well, and that cultivating its own, my story cultivating its own kind of
Ministry.
throwing out seeds of its own kind of thing of like, oh, well, I want that, and it's just that is the way God intended it to be. Because if I wasn't there also, I wouldn't have this story. If I was just fine all the time, I wouldn't have a story.
Yeah.
There would be no story to tell.
Right.
And it's like when you look at a before and after picture, if I were to post that and I looked like I do now, and it was just like, I guess he looks like a little bit better, and I wasn't so unhealthy looking, it wouldn't be quite the story that it is.
Yeah.
And I'm thankful for that. And I'm thankful for those lows because now I have a story.
Yeah.
And now people that are in those places,
you can give hope.
I can give hope to the hopeless because I was hopeless.
That's beautiful, babe. I mean, I'll tie up with this. I spoke at that conference last weekend, and the title of it was Missing Pieces. And what I did, just as a visual, was I held up some broken bits of a plate that I had broken. And I said, this is what our lives look like a lot. All the time. Everyone. We're broken. We've got these broken pieces. And we can try to tape them back together. I had one bowl that I had taped back together. There's a couple of missing pieces in there. But when we try to fix it ourselves and self-help and all of these, like, I can do it, or I'm just going to keep going and brush it under the rug. Yeah, it can look okay on the outside. It can look taped up with clear tape, but it's not usable. God can't use it,
Because you didn't let him fix it.
Because you didn't let him fix it. And then what I did was I held up this other plate. And this plate, as you know, you've seen it, it's full of cracks. And it's been shattered. But it's also been repaired with gold. It's a Japanese art called kintsugi. And it's beautiful. All those broken bits have been fused back together with gold.
And it's stronger.
And it's stronger.
Than it was, yeah.
And it's more beautiful. And it's more valuable. And it's usable. And those broken pieces, after God restores and heals it, that is what God will do with your story. That's why they call him the Redeemer. I mean, he came and he redeemed our sins, but he redeems our stories too.
Yeah.
And only God can do that. And I think it's safe to say, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but like God has done that in your life.
Absolutely.
It wasn't just you choosing to change your diet and your lifestyle. It was, but God's been in it. And I've watched your spiritual life just thrive.
Yeah. God bamboozled me.
He did.
He tricked me into thinking I was just trying to get abs.
You can't compartmentalize. You can't compartmentalize.
That's where prayer snuck in.
Yeah. So just like you can't compartmentalize unhealth, I guess you can't compartmentalize health because it bled into all the areas of his spiritual life and emotional life and our marriage. And
that's pure gold.
It's pure gold. So thank you, Jesus. Guys, I hope that there have been bits and pieces of this story today that have been an encouragement to you. Shay, is there anything, if a wife is listening, or if she wants her husband to tune in and listen? I know we've had a couple of people that listened to our first conversation that shared it with their husbands. So if there's anything you want to say to them, I'm just going to let you do that.
I would say to all the husbands out there, there's so much life and there's so much joy and fulfillment in the pursuit of greatness and what this journey that I've been down.
Not greatness, but God.
Absolutely. It is greatness, but he wants us to do everything that we do, we need to do it to the best of our ability, and he's given us that inside of us. And I just think that, if you're sitting around and you're thinking like, I guess maybe I could do that. It's not, don't toy with the idea, just do it because it'll change your life. It completely changed my life. Every aspect of it. I mean, from physically to your confidence, whatever it is that you're looking for, pursue this and do it and just go down this road. And it completely changed my life, and it'll change your marriage. It'll change your relationship with your kids. And this isn't something that I've read. This is something I've lived in the last year. and it completely changed my life. And I'm so excited now for the future, but I also am not worried about the future because I have right now.
Yeah.
And I just think that you have to make that first step. And I think that this, if you hear nothing else, our decisions matter, and it has got to be you making that decision. And all you have to do is take that first step. And I promise you it's worth it. It'll change your life.
Thank you, babe.
Thank
Thanks for
you.
coming back.
Of course. Thanks for having me back.
I'm glad that you didn't turn me down.
I would never turn you down. I mean,
Yeah.
just look at you.
Oh, wow.
Wow. It's a nice one. I love you, baby. And I'm
I
so
love you.
incredibly proud of you. And
I'm proud
your
of you.
podcast is, we're going after, if this just impacts one person.
Yeah. For the one.
For the one. And I hope that there's somebody out there. And I love hearing people's stories.
I remember the quote.
Absolutely.
I remember the quote. It was nothing worth having comes easy. That's it.
It was better at the end.
It was better at the end.
Nothing worth having comes easy. And I know that Hannah and I, we pray for people to be impacted by this. And we got socials at Shay Mooney, at Hannah Love Billingsley, I think is yours, maybe.
Hannah Billingsley.
Hannah Billingsley.
Sorry, babe.
That's okay.
The handle was taken.
Handle was taken.
We've been married almost 7 years. And
The handle's taken, but so are you. And so that's all that matters.
That's all that matters.
And but yeah, if you ever have any questions, I love getting on there, and I really do reply back to people because this, beyond my career, I love hearing these stories, and I love talking with people, and I think people are sometimes surprised that I message them back. I'm just on there like, you can do this, Bob.
Yeah. Really,
because
though.
I
Really,
love it. I love it so much.
Excited
I get very excited because
send their stories.
I'm blown away that people have been impacted by my story, and I just simply, maybe it's coming out of a selfish place, but I love whenever people are impacted by this story because it is so not me, and I love getting to hear those stories, and I love being able to help somebody. It's just I love that so much because this changed my life, and I want that for people. I feel so good. I selfishly want others to feel that. I really, really do. And I love it. It is literally the lifeblood of it. Really, it helps me, and it inspires me to keep going, to hear those stories. And I know it's going to change your life too. And again, this is not some specific diet. Consistency in your life. You can't compartmentalize discipline. Let's go out. Let's be great. Lead your home. Be great husbands. Be great fathers. And God's going to use you in a huge way.
Wow, babe. I was just waiting for you to start singing the Rocky music at the
end. I tell you.
Guys, we love you. Thank you for listening. Thank you for your patience and just, we're praying for you this week. And any week that someone tunes on to listen to this, we're just going to pray over every ear that hears. So we love you guys, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you so much for listening today. If this episode has encouraged you, please feel free to share the show with your family and friends. There's a lot of stuff going on in the world today, and my hope is that this show is a candle in the dark.